G'day Internet, Tom here, coming to you from Athens at the DNA Performance Filters HQ. We've come over here for a bit of a holiday, but I had to squeeze a bit of work in and not miss the opportunity to run you guys through these three incredible machines. We've got the DCR 017 and the DCR 018 behind me, as well as a Moto 3 spec, completely in-house built racer. That thing is insane. So I'll run you through a few details and then we're going to get out in the hills of Athens and take a couple of these bikes for a ride with you. Let's get into another build breakdown from Athens this time. Now, the first of the DCR in-house builds was based upon an 1190 RC8R from around 2016-2017 era. Now, this is when I had first reached out to DNA and we started our cooperation. I was talking to Marios and to Dino, father and son team here, and they just started the process of building this bike. So I saw it to come together over a few emails. This thing is absolutely incredible. So as you can probably tell, the body kit on this bike is completely CNC built. So the tank is a single piece with obviously a cap on the bottom. They've hollowed this whole piece out of a single block of billet. It was incredible. The same thing with the tail and the caps, and then pretty much anything that's orange or silver on this bike, apart from the a few little bits and pieces, they've made in-house here. So all CNC machine. They've got a couple of Haas machines behind me, and they were running day and night to get this thing done. Now, this isn't just a show bike. This one, the boys sort of went crazy on. So if you don't know the backstory of DNA, Dino started the company in the 80s. He was a mad keen racer and started developing his own filters. He was building his own motorcycles. Then his son joined the company a few years ago and they started creating these motorcycles just as a bit of a promotion thing into the custom motorcycle scene. So needless to say that this thing isn't just a show bike. The guys have gone into the engine and completely blueprinted it. This engine, as it sits, has been brought up to complete Superbike specs inside and out. So this thing is a custom machine running the same engine that any Superbike class would run throughout Europe. So needless to say, this thing is an absolute wild ride. It's 162 kilos, 192 horsepower. So you've got over a 1-to-1 ratio on this bike, and it is just an absolute menace on the road. A real key part of this project was obviously the tank and the stage 3 filter that they've specially built for it. So obviously being the V-twin, you've got your intake coming through the top of the engine here. They've completely machined out the tank system to fit this specially built performance air filter. So when you're riding and hunched over this bike, basically you get the engine noise that's spat out of the Akrapovic system underneath the motor, and then you can hear so clearly the intake noise, which is a really unique experience. Normally it's all covered by your tank and sort of sat under the engine, but to be able to be that close to that sucking intake noise is a really incredible experience, something really unique about this bike as well. Now, when the guys had completed their KTM, they waited a year or so, and then they got into their second build, the Billet Sting. So this is built on top of a BMW R9T engine, and that motorcycle that we ran through before still has a KTM frame and swing arm, whereas this motorcycle is completely handmade on top of the engine. Well, when I say handmade, I mean CNC machine. So they've made their own swing arm, their own frame, the tank, the side panels, the insane billet fairing and intake on the front here. Each piece of this bike built around that engine is custom made. So the only BMW parts that are left on this bike are the engine and drivetrain to the rear wheel. And then you've got a set of Kineo wheels on it. You got Hyper Pro suspension, Akrapovic exhaust. And you know, I really need to stress the importance of this, guys. Like, this thing was completely made within the 4 walls that we stand within now. So an absolutely incredible achievement. Purpose Built Moto, we build motorcycles, but this sort of thing is just an absolute next level. Regardless if this sort of like machine style fits with your taste or not, you sort of have to respect the send with this one, and it's an absolutely incredible machine. So we've taken these two bikes out riding, and This one, you know, it's got that really nice torque, and just sitting on top of it, it feels completely different to the normal R9T, just because they've really engineered this bike from the ground up. So I was actually sent a photo of this, and they were given the engine and drivetrain. They had the engine sat up on a bunch of billet blocks, and from there, everything was machined. So you've got all of these pieces. And I was reading in the spec sheet of this bike, there's over 600 hours of CNC machining on this bike. And that's not including the 150 plus hours that went into the cam time, and also like the design time before that. So just absolute man hours in this thing. And I mean, the result speaks for itself. There's definitely nothing like this out there at all. Now, while we didn't get to ride this little weapon, I couldn't resist the opportunity to sort of give you guys a few details. Now, this machine is a Moto 3 spec racer. So they've got a completely machined, engineered in-house frame, swing arm, and the front suspension is absolutely something to behold. You can't really see it underneath here, but it's sort of like a girder fork. So instead of having, you know, a traditional set of forks on this thing, it's basically like having two swing arms on the bike, and you've got something similar to a rear shock mounted up on the front on the left-hand side here. So this thing was built for Moto 3 spec. They're running a worked YZ450 engine. Obviously Akrapovic exhaust. The guys at DNA and Akrapovic have sort of worked together super closely, even back as far as the 80s and 90s. So again, like, this thing is just unbelievable. So this is the sort of thing that you would expect to see, you know, like a factory racing frame, but they've gone and designed and made everything in-house here. So all of this stuff has been machined out of billet in the machine right next to me, and then welded together. They've slowly sort of pieced this thing together. Handmade carbon fiber body kit. The intakes are all custom made in-house. These guys have really gone next level. So this thing hasn't been sort of road tested quite as much yet. They've sort of taken it for a few rides, but the guys at DNA are really busy. If you're sort of familiar with what they do, they don't really rest that often. They're always got something new coming out. So this thing, ultra nice machine. And you know, while I didn't get to ride it, I spent a lot of time staring at this thing, especially the front end and how those linkages work. Amazing little machine. The guys have built this bike to be compatible with any Moto 3 engine. So it's got a YZ450, but they were saying that they built the bracketry and all the stuff that you need if you want to drop that YZ450 engine, chuck a KTM 250 or whatever you like. It'll just sort of drop out, new brackets, plug and play, and you can probably swap the engine out in a couple of minutes on this thing trackside. So again, like, really mind-blowing stuff, and it's sort of exactly opposite to what we're doing. A lot of our stuff is handcrafted, handmade, one of one. These guys are doing exactly the same thing, but with help of all of the latest modern technology. They're using CAD and CAM to sort of build these bikes digitally, completely test them through, and then they go through the machine work, which is, yeah, it's really mind-blowing to someone like me coming from the absolute opposite end of the spectrum. But you know, the passion that these guys have for their motorcycles, it really comes through in their products and in their work. So the two brothers and their dad that have started and run the company, really inspiring stuff here. So I'm going to chuck some gear on. We're going to take these two bikes out for a ride, and you could understand that I'm absolutely stoked about this. Like, it's not often that you can travel halfway around the world and get the opportunity to take some incredible bikes out riding with a few of your mates. So let's get into that. Enjoy the video, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.